Elahe. I'm one of the founding members of Lamakaan. And this is something we are extremely proud of, the space, the culture, the kind of people we've given this space to. And thank you for being there, thank you for being a part of Lamakaan, and thank you for making Lamakaan as successful as it is today. We started Lamakaan 13 years ago, and from day one we never had to look back. We never had to promote ourselves, we never had to tell people what we do, but I will still tell you what we do. We are an open cultural space. This space is extremely democratic. Lamakaan does not mean la maison like the French word. Lamakaan means without boundaries, a place in the galaxy, and that's what we are. It's a place that we've created and hoped to give back to society, because when we were growing up, we had spaces like the Senthil and probably, Alliance Française and stuff, and we all could get together, the youth of changing the world, and we thought we could change the world, and we tried our best. Today, we've taken those same spaces away from our children, made it completely commercial, and our children are growing up in Starbucks or CCDs eating muffins and listening to Bollywood songs. So we are as responsible for them not going the certain way that we wanted to, and we hope to write it in a way with Lamakaan. The Hasan Memorial Lecture is a lecture we instituted 10 years back. Hasan uncle was the person who built Lamakaan. It was his house. And he bequeathed it to Farhan, who is his nephew and a visionary, also my brother. So Lamakaan stands today with Hasan uncle's great gift, and that's why we have the Hasan Memorial Lecture. We've had various guests who come and speak. It's on a varied number of topics, from economics to politics to poetry. And today we have Mr. Senthil, who we are waiting to listen to, but I will not introduce him. Biju Matthew will introduce him. Biju Matthew is also one of our founding members. There's Farhan, Humaira, Biju Matthew and me. Biju Matthew's day job is that of a professor in a very, very respected university in the US. But what he actually does is what makes him. He is who we call commander, because he will take us to revolution. He also is the person who's one of the most eminent organizing members of the Taxi Workers Association, and Taxi Workers Alliance in New York, which helps the taxi workers get their rights in terms of hours of work, in terms of the increment in the wages, etc. And also a member of one of the main persons of the India Civil Watch International.
But thank you so much, Ryan. Thank you so much for everybody who's out here. I have a very simple task of introducing a person who doesn't need much of an introduction, but is a person who everybody got to know in a matter of 5-6 years. And that is Sasikanth Senthil, Member of Parliament from Tiruvallur in Tamil Nadu, and a constituency that is his maternal home. And there are constituencies and there are members of Parliament, many, 542 of them. But what marks Senthil is the fact of his landslide to begin with. 5,70,000 votes. Right? It's the second largest margin in India during this Lok Sabha election. Quite remarkable. And his was the first phase election, and he was also running the Congress war room, which meant that he went to campaign for just 10 to 15 days in his constituency and walked away with such a tremendous margin. But it's that margin and that victory is not what we should begin to think about Senthil with. Senthil started out as a software engineer. How many software engineers here? So he started out as a software engineer, decided after trying to write tens of thousands of lines of code to save the world from the Y2K problem, he decided to dump it all, walked away from it, and joined basically the broad world of participative development in the NGO sector. Worked there for a couple of years just to understand whether he belongs in that broad space, and walked away and wrote the IAS and went into the IAS. And then finally, in 2019, walked away from the IAS on what happened with Article 370 in Kashmir, and very soon after that with the NRC CAA movement. He became deeply involved, and from there one fine morning decided to walk into the Congress, and I must say it's a meteoric rise within the Congress, in as much as not only did he end up being the Member of Parliament from Tiruvallur, but also, most importantly, he started out with the Karnataka War Room, followed by Rajasthan, and then ran the War Room for the Congress for the Lok Sabha election. So, what should therefore immediately come to our mind with Senthil is the fact that he is a person with a tremendous sense of vision and courage and a desire to move, right? And that's what we hope he'll bring to the lecture today, which is very simply titled An Ideological Gap, imagining an India beyond Hindu supremacy. So over to Senthil. Senthil will speak for about 30 to 40 minutes, and is free to speak more if he wishes. And then we'll have an open Q&A session. And I'll just say right away that I'll set off the Q&A session with the first couple of questions, and then we'll open it up and just I'll model the questions in terms of the fact that how long a question can be, and then we'll do an hour of Q&A. Thank you so much. Senthil, all yours.
Thank you, Viju, and all the Sathis. It's a great honor to be in this space. I've always wondered and imagined a space like this, and would never lose an opportunity to come. And I'm extremely delighted to be here, first of all. But that's a very elaborate introduction. Confusing though, My mom thinks that I'm mad. She thought I was mad once I left software, then so many other areas. But then there is a travel that I've gone through. So today I will not again lecture you much or bore you much on what it is, because we'll go for the Q&A. I'll just spend some time in telling about what I think is happening and then what we should do. I think I'll focus more on what we should do or what we can do in a collective manner. That will be the focus of this lecture. But then to start with, we also have to kind of put things in perspective of what is happening. If at all I can claim a little bit of edge in this, is because of my civil service experience, where I worked in around 3 districts as district collector, and then got to see people in various levels and shades, and then came out and roamed the country to understand various cultures and the issues that happen. So my understanding has come from that. I come from Tamil Nadu, so I'm a big fan of Periyar. Not because of his courage, of course everybody talks about his radical thinking, but I also like the way he simply explains things. He's a very good, he doesn't complicate stuff, he makes things very simple. And I'm going to go the Periyar way this time, so I'm not going to go into complex theories of politics and other things. I'm going to go very simple on what I think is happening, and then we'll proceed towards what we should be doing. I think primarily we have to understand this fight. There was a period when I thought very communal fight. That was my frame which I understood this thing. But then when I started seeing this from different perspectives, I understood the fight which is going on in this country currently is not just communal. It has a larger framework to it. And the more and more I try to understand this, I see this fight has been going on for a long time. This is not, a lot of us, even I thought, this started in 2014 or 2002 when the Godhra riots happened. That's when my mind got latched onto this. But then this fight has been going for a long time. That's the simple fact of it. And the way I see it is this, it is not a fight between 2 religions or 2 parties or 2 groups. It is between 2 mindsets. There is a mindset which believes in hierarchy, fear, anger, and everything. There is a mindset which believes in equity, friendship, love, brotherhood. These are the 2 mindsets.
And these two mindsets are there everywhere. It's not only there in two political ideologies, but it is also present within companies, within the judiciary, within the bureaucracy, within our own families, to be very frank, and that came out in recent times, that our WhatsApp groups are filled with these two mindsets, right? So when you believe in the first mindset, you believe that you have to have hierarchy in society. You have to have control, and the control should be driven through fear. It all comes to one mindset. Anybody worked in a software company or under a manager would realize two kinds of managers. One who takes the danda and one who tries to. So these two mindsets have been fighting in this country for a long time, and the fight is still going on. And every time there was a reaction, it came out as a new system. Like essentially think about Buddha. What did he fight against? He fought against hierarchy and brought in a new system. What did the Jain Tirthankars did? Or for instance, what did Prophet Muhammad do? This is the fight, which is a fundamental fight between hierarchies and equity. Right. Now I'm going to pull all those history and come to this wonderful movement called the independence movement. So this is a very critical part of our history, because a lot of people, when we talk about independence movement, we talk about the colonial rule and the imperialistic attack and everything. But it was also a fight, not only against colonialism, but also against hierarchies built within our country. In my opinion, that fight is bigger than that other fight. That's when you read about independence movement, when you see a collective coming up as a social movement, it was not just against the British, but also against our own hierarchies. And that collective came and fought this movement. Now, when that collective came and discussed what is right and what should be fought against, and moreover, how our country should be running after independence, then this idea of equity, idea of brotherhood, idea of pluralism, I think that's the soul of our country. We celebrate our differences. We don't accept or tolerate. We celebrate our differences. There's a very big difference in Indian secularism, that we celebrate our differences. So this idea, when it got into this independence movement, there was already a group which never agreed with that idea. They really thought society has to be hierarchical. You can understand within your house, you will know one mindset tells that, the servant has to be like this. And the other mindset which says, no, that's not necessary. This fight? This fight happened in independence movement also. There was a group which thought that society has to be hierarchical. And there was this huge other group which said, no, that could have been, but it will not be so. And this fight was between these two groups. And they matured into political ideologies. For ease of understanding, I would say the equity mindset is represented by many people. It was represented by Bhagat Singh, it was represented by Gandhi, it was represented by Ambedkar, Subhash Chandra Bose. Their methods would have been different. Some would have followed a violent method, some would have gone into ahimsa, but their idea was creating a society of equity. There was this other group, which was also from not only one religion, many other religions, which never believed in this equity. Right? Now they matured into two ideologies. But when the social movement and the independence movement was totally overpowered by the second mindset, the equity mindset, and then independence came to us, and the second mindset was overwhelmingly powerful in that structure. But you also have to see the first mindset, which was believing in hierarchies. That is the reason they never participated in the independence movement. Now many have this, we keep hearing that the RSS never participated in the independence movement. Didn't they want the British to go away? They also wanted. They tried their best to do that. But what they had a problem with was, after they go, you can't talk about equity. You have to maintain those structures. And, it is what they believed in. It is not even what they thought about. It was they believed in that. So that is the reason they never participated in the independence movement. Right? Now, when the independence movement was done and we got independence, and the second mindset created the idea of India through a constitution. And this is a very crucial part in our history for a person like me. Because today I am standing here, wearing this shirt in front of you because of that event. If not for the constitution, I don't think many in this country, many even in this gathering, would be sitting here wearing this shirt and talking in a very respectful manner. Right? But the constitution was just a framework for the future. It is just like a plan for the country. It has to be built on that. Right? So now, this fight between hierarchy and the equity part was overwhelmingly won by the equity side. I try to call it the Congress mindset, but I know many friends will not agree with it. But let's agree to disagree on that. But that was the only movement at that time. Right? Now, this first mindset had a huge problem, because the whole country that they imagined of hierarchies was getting changed through this constitution. Every day the constitution was operating, hierarchies were reducing. Every day the constitution was put in operation. So they had a huge urge to stop this happening. But they are powerless. Because we moved into a republic and a democracy, there is a way in which power has to be attained. Power had to be attained through an electoral process. It cannot be just a coup attempt, right? So for the last 70 years, they have been trying to find a formula to get power in this country. But their ultimate aim is to reverse this process of what Constitution has done and take us back to the system of hierarchies. This is the fundamental fight. This, I think, is something which we really need to understand what's happening. Now, where do the Muslims come in? Where do the minorities come in? Why is this violent backlash? Why is this violence against them? Now, as I told you, for 70 years, they were searching for a formula to get power electorally. And then finally they found it in the form of a fascist politics. Right, I just explain what this is in a very simple way. Let's say we have an election now in this, and there are two candidates. Both of us will go to you and will start kind of doing campaign for electing me. That other person, two candidates going to everybody. What is the probability that we might win? 50-50? I might win 50% of the time. So there's no success guaranteed. Now let's go to the second method, which is the time-tested method. I don't go to 20% of you. I go to the 80% of you who are visibly a group. And then I tell a story to 80% that, look, this 20 is the exact reason why we are getting into problems. And this 20 is actually the problem creators. And this 20 is what we have to be afraid about. And this 20 is going to get your families. This 20 is going to get your kids. And if I tell a story good enough and make you a little afraid, then I will give you this line that elect me so that I will take care of it. Right? And then out of this 80, there is a good probability that 60 might vote for me out of this fear. If I tell a story in a very good way, I might get 70% also. If I get a wonderful story, then 80% of the votes will be guaranteed to me against this 20. I don't need this 20. Now, with this, I can win any election. And this is how all the fascist forces have come to power. And it will be, most of you would be knowing, 99% of the fascist forces have come through a democratic election. right? And this is their way of winning an election. So now they needed this 20% to actually win an election, right? Now we have this history of Hindu-Muslim, which was there for a long time in historic reasons, God knows when, whatever it is, in some spaces. You just had to rekindle that and show them the villains. This is politics of fear. It is not politics of hate. It is politics of fear. And then it moves into a system of hate. Now, I am not going into the framework of fascism, but simply if you want to understand this, you can understand it as a 80-20 politics. And you might have heard this many times from their own mouth that we are doing 80-20 politics, right? So once you go to power, once you get the power, their ultimate aim is to get back the hierarchical society. Now, I want to ask you this question. Who is the victim in this? Who is the victim in this? Is the victim Muslims? Muslims are eventually undergoing a lot of violence for electoral victory. The victims are not only Muslims, but more so the majority of the Hindu community which has come up in this last 70 years. This is the understanding that we need to get. It is against the majority of this ST, SC, OBC, MBC, whoever has come up and sat in this space, gone to parliament, became IAS officers. These are the real targets. There is collateral damage happening to the Muslim community. One cannot deny that. But one cannot just simplify it is only against Muslims. This violence is against the Hindu community as much, more than anything. Because, and this perspective has to be understood. Today, when we ask for a OBC or a caste census, the group which is projecting itself as the protector of the Hindus do not want it. Who is going to benefit out of caste census? Is it the Muslims who are going to get benefit? Christians? No. It's going to be the majority of the Hindu community which is going to be benefited of the caste census. Why would they not want it? They would not want it because their actual target is this group or this equity which has emerged in this country for the last 70 years. So I think they are people who don't believe in equity, and this whole country, more than the Muslims, it is the Hindu community which has the responsibility of fighting this. That's the central understanding that we need to bring. Now, start looking at the Hindu community as the victim. Let's start looking at it like that. We are used to this idea of Muslims are the only victims. Now let's for a moment start thinking the Hindu community is the biggest victim. Now what we should be doing? We should be actually talking to them and making them understand that this is a problem for you. And I don't know how much of that narrative has been pushed. That narrative has somewhere taken a backtrack. And it has to be pushed. So, the way I'm going to trying to put this is, coming from a Dalit background, I understand what danger I am facing. Today it may not be overtly violent, but I can see signals of it everywhere. Whenever you are bringing in, new exams to get into, or when you are bringing a new education policy, or when you want to register people based on their socio-economic whatever, I see this danger every day that they are perpetuating, right? So, this is exactly what I think we should be understanding about this whole issue. Right. Now, I'm going to deviate from here and go into how to fight this. Now, first of all, we have to understand this fight. This fight is not between Hindus and Muslims, but it is between people who believe in this idea of India and people who don't believe in this idea of India. That is the narrative line I would like to hear. I would not want to hear it is just between Hindus and Muslims, because it is not the case. There are many Hindus who don't want it, and in Muslims there are many people who are Kattar also. That's not the case. When we talk about the idea of India, We talk about pluralism. We talk about equity. We talk about brotherhood. We talk about love. We talk about affection. That's how our constitution is made. In fact, you see all this character inside a tribal society. From a Vedic society to a tribal society, constitution can be seen in that way also. Right? Now, there are people who believe in this. No matter which religion you are, which caste you are, whatever you are. We are all together against the people who doesn't want this. That's the narrative line I think we as Indians should start pushing. And that's when you will see people joining hands. As long as we do this Hindu-Muslim thing, there is going to be a problem. Because when I go to any meeting and ask, who is against RSS? Everybody is silent. Because fascism survives on this silence. Fascism doesn't grow on this loudness of the dictators. Rather, it grows on the silence of the people who know what's happening. So there's a silence, right? Now, how do I break this silence strategically? I turn it around and say, who are the people who believe in the idea of India? And I see 60%, 70% of the hands going up. I say, join me. And they don't have a problem with that, right? So we have to break this. So for this, we have to understand what is happening and how do we put that right narrative line, right? Now, when I say this, I am not bringing down any suffering of anybody. I perfectly understand, and coming from a background of, a Dalit family who has suffered all that, I understand pain, understand being what it is. But we need to fight this smartly, because it is also, if we need to fight this democratically, it is also an electoral game. We need to fight this smartly by giving that right narrative line to the public. Second thing, can we fight this with, anger? Can we fight this with sadness? That's the second biggest question. I think both will not work. Anger or sadness, both are exactly what they want from us, because they thrive on those things. And all over the world we have seen fascist organizations, they thrive on this anger and sadness of the other. So one needs to break that. Now, how do you break that? We break it by creating spaces like this. We can only fight this with the idea of celebration, of what we are, what values we stand for. I had once, in fact, in many times, I have seen, especially women, I have learned this from women, especially in rural areas. How do they tackle this patriarchy? Patriarchy is there everywhere in the society, in their own houses. How do they tackle? They tackle it in a very different way. And I think there's a lot to learn from women when we fight this kind of oppression, because they have been doing it for a long time. So, anger and sadness cannot be a solution. The moment you are angry or sad, you have already taken the bait. It has to be somewhere between celebration and joy. That's what they cannot accept. They cannot accept us being happy and celebrating our lives. That cannot be. They cannot accept celebration of Constitution. They cannot accept that we are all joining hands and standing in a place. They can't do that. But they'll be very happy that if you are angry against them, because that's how social fabric gets demolished. Right? Second thing is the act of standing with. I once went to a village with a Gandhian, and we both went to the village, and the Gandhian, there were a bunch of women who were there, and the Gandhian started talking about ahimsa, satya, all that for 15-20 minutes. And that women, one of that women came along with her friend, and she told me in Kannada, "Sir, you spoke for 15-20 minutes. I didn't understand a word. Whatever you said, I didn't understand. But one thing I would tell you, if something happens to this, my friend, this lady, I will stand with her." This is the phrase that she used, that I will stand with her. She didn't say that I'll help her. She didn't say that I will fight for her. No, she said, I will stand with her. And when I was coming back, I thought what a profound phrase this was. Many a times in our lives, we want somebody to stand with us, right? Your father is in a critical ICU, your friend comes, he just stands with you, he doesn't do anything. He or she just stands. And this idea of standing with each other is a very important idea. We had a very old, 99-year-old Gandhian, and we both were talking on a stage. I finished my speech, that was during NRC movement. We had around 15,000 Muslims holding the national flag and standing in the sun. It was around 1 o'clock. And then after I spoke, he came. And then he couldn't get up, so the mic was put for him. He spoke in a very feeble voice. He asked, this is 1 o'clock. The sun is on the head. Why are you all standing here? Then everybody was shocked. And then he asked, I'm again asking you, why are you standing here? Everybody was shocked. Then he said, you know why? You are all getting punished. And then he said, in the last 50 years after independence, when have you stood for each other? When have you stood when the Christians' churches were getting demolished? When have you stood when a Dalit was getting beaten up? When have you stood when a Muslim was getting lynched? You were all in your own houses. And because of that, you are all getting punished. And he said, take it from me. Nobody can capture this country. And he gave that word. Take it from me. No NRC, CAA will come in this country. But learn to live and stand for each other. You don't have to do much. Just stand. Just keep standing. And that is something which I think is primarily our duty. You know, as an individual, we can say, what can I do? You know, I cannot do much. We don't have to do much. We just have to stand. But don't flinch from standing. It can be in social media, it can be in your own house, it can be in the road or whatever we can. But then we have to stand with each other without any problem. So the idea is to celebrate. The idea is to be happy, not be sad and angry about all these things. The idea is to understand that this is a fight between hierarchy and equity. It is not between two religions. It is not between two parties. It is certainly not between Rahul Gandhi and Modi. It is between two mindsets. And these mindsets we have to fight. And if the other mindset continues to be in power in this country, there is collateral damage to everybody. Because this country is made out of a very delicate fabric. And it's going to be really problematic. And hence, not only for us, for our own children, no matter which community you come from, we have to fight this hierarchy business. Otherwise, so I keep telling, this is not a national problem or a social problem. ये घर की problem है, घर का problem है. अगर हम आगे आज कुछ नहीं करेंगे, तो ये पहला आग घर का ही आएगा. This is going to come to our house only. So this understanding we have to propagate with a very nice narrative. And I chose the narrative of the idea of India. It works in many places. Right. Thirdly, as I told you, this fight is not just between two communities. It is between hierarchies. Right. Now, in our community, hierarchies are manifested in many other ways. In class. But the most important thing is caste. Right. We can't fight, keep quiet about those atrocities. And we cannot just think about one type of atrocity. Patriarchy. Patriarchy is the big elephant, right? It is on that vehicle caste propagates. It's on caste RSS survives. Please understand this link. So if we are fighting this Hindutva, the political hierarchical arm of using a religion, then we can't just keep quiet about caste atrocities and patriarchal atrocities. They are all the same. They are all the same. Now, capitalism brings its own atrocities. Right? It brings its own atrocities in many forms, very intelligent forms. The latest form which I found was extremely intelligent was merit. Today also we were talking about it. There's this idea of merit. Now everybody is latched onto it. Every middle class will say, मेरा बेटा meritorious बेटा है. My son is meritorious, my daughter is merit. We have moved away from this idea of wealth. अगर कोई पैदाइश से उनका wealth मिल रहा है, if the father and mother, if you are born to a father and mother who are wealthy, and by virtue of it you become wealthy, you think it's a chance. No, that should not be the indicator inside a society to give some opportunity. But we accept this concept of merit. My question is, how does merit come? Merit comes because you are again born to a family, may not be rich or wealthy, but to a family which believes education is important to you. Imagine if you have not born in that family or born in a family under the platform. Would you get that merit? No. Then merit is also chance. If wealth is chance, merit is also chance. A huge part of it is chance. Now, why would we accept merit as an indicator to give opportunities? I would say rather use diversity. Right? Rather, I would say even just put a lot. That is more a justice system than thinking merit is a justifiable system. Please think over it. Many may not accept it, but these are all new forms of hierarchy which is put on people. I would say new age casteism, something like that. So, I want to conclude, I want to move further. So, we have to fight all these hierarchies together. And it is absolutely important that we recognize culture is the way to do it. It is not science, or it is not going to be data, or it is not going to be data analysis. I think it's going to be culture, art. That is the key for opening up these minds. You cannot open it by data. I was a big data guy. I was a big science guy. I thought giving a number to everybody when I was in college, my big project was this. Give one number and swipe card for everybody, and then all resources will go to them. And I realized in a very bad way when I entered the service, and I wanted to stay away as much as from IT and this. So culture and art, this is the space. This is the idea that we need to promote. And this is the space where these things will get promoted. And last, India by itself has this beautiful chaos built inside it. It is having this wonderful chaos which by itself will object to order. Today I was coming through Hyderabad road. I was like amazed. But it's beautiful in a sense that everybody is not bothering anybody. Yeah, they are moving. Somebody comes from outside, they are bamboozled. But we are okay with it. So how do you make us in an order? How do you bring us to one form? You can't. That's when H.S. Duraiswamy, that centenarian, told me, you cannot capture India. And I also believe a pluralistic country cannot be captured by this majoritarianism. Because for two reasons. One is that pluralism itself is an antidote. Secondly, Indian majoritarianism, it's very funny. Of all the majoritarianism in this world, Indian majoritarianism is fake majoritarianism. It's 420 majoritarianism. It is not even doing justice to the majority. In every majoritarian country, you will have undue advantage to the majority and raw deal to the minority. India is the only country where a majoritarianistic politics runs, where injustice is done to the majority only. And that is the thing that we have to take. We are deliberately being pushed to see this as a Hindu-Muslim issue, but I don't see it on the roads. I don't see it in anywhere else between the people. Only in the political realm, I can see this. Mob, violence, these are different categories altogether. But I think the fundamental political line is this fight between equity and hierarchy. And the last thing that I really want to say is we have to promote this chaos. We cannot fight them only as a political party. Whose fight is this? Another fundamental question. This is everybody's fight. This is every one of us' fight. It is not a fight of a political party, not a student organization, not a cultural, it's everybody's fight. And the long we make it everybody's fight, that is when they are going to feel the heat, right? I sit today in the parliament and I see how plural we are. When the Waqf bill came, right, there was objection from Congress side. There was objection from Trinamool Congress. There are objection from Tamil Nadu who were speaking in Tamil. Slogans are being raised in Tamil, Marathi. The other day, the Manipuri guys came and said, yeah, you are sloganeering for us. Why don't you do it in Manipuri? Then we all sloganeered in Manipuri. Now, this is what they don't understand. They'll be very happy to focus on somebody who is Rahul Gandhi, but now, it's now moving further. There are these independents who are fighting. There are these CPI-ML guys who are fighting in their own sense. So, we have to promote this chaos, bring many organizations, bring from different realms, infuse art, music. But the fundamental line that we have to take is, whether you are a person who supports equity and the idea of India, come this side. If you don't support it, proclaim that you don't support it and go that side. Right? If you make it a fight between BJP and Congress, people will still not understand. If you make it a fight between Hindus and Muslims, which is not the case, they will still not understand. It is a fight between the idea of India and the people who don't believe in this idea of India. So, I think we need to promote this chaos as much as possible and also try to understand that mainstream politics is not something to be afraid of. You know, we have done this mistake. I have done this mistake in my life of not thinking mainstream politics is my area. I always thought it was dirty. It should not be touched upon. My parents believed so. I also believed for a long time. And later I understood both of us were tricked to believe like that. You know, the political organizations have designed themselves in such a way that from a distance you will see and run away. And it is designed in that way. For example, recently I went to one of our own youth congresses conclave. And it was so lavish. I said, if I come from a village, I will not enter the gate, I will run away. It is designed to make you run away. You understand? Mainstream politics is a space we have to reclaim. I'm using this word very consciously, reclaim. We should not run away from. We have to go inside, sit there, put our views and reclaim that space. As long as we don't do that, we will not find any reactions from political parties. So I would request you, all of you, to remain very happy, celebrative, create chaos and create this mahal where they don't understand anything. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Sorry for, it was a little preachy. I apologize, like I don't intend to do that. It is a collective discussion, but then within the time that we have to speak in.
So we'll open it up in a moment, but I do have a couple of quick questions for Senthil, which hopefully are running through some of your minds also. And so, I'll ask all the easy questions, and then, all of you can try and find a way to ask more difficult questions. Yeah. So, Senthil, you said that your mother was very unhappy when you quit software. How is she feeling right now? I do want you to think about that and talk to us about it. There are lots of people here who, I'm sure, struggle with those things.
Generally, I'm asked, like, how did your wife feel when you resigned from service? That's the most popular question. Of course, my mother, she lost hope when I resigned from software. So she said, this guy is crazy, so we have to leave him. I had my younger brother who took care of everything. So I was this, in Tamil we call Kovil Madu. Kovil Madu means temple ke liye kuch गाय को छोड़ देते हैं, bull को, ऐसे this like that. But then interestingly, it was my wife who asked me to resign. She was my college mate, and she was, in fact, the person who we were friends for a long time. She has been always my, primary funder for all the education and everything. And then in 2019, I was 10 years into service, and we were sitting and watching TV. And then this whole army was moving inside Jammu and Kashmir. So she made a very simple question to me. Look, in the college you were a big rebel. What happened to you now? what's happening to the country and what are you doing here? So that really pricked me in the night that, what do I do? And then in the morning I went and asked her, will it be okay if I resigned and did something about this? She said, do this first. And from that day, third day, I gave my resignation and I left that. I was sitting collector and left the district. It was funny actually.
So now your mother thinks that she's also in Kovilmadu. All right. So actually the question that I really wanted to focus on was the hierarchy part we all understand. We understand that Hindutva, we understand Hindu supremacy, we understand caste, we understand all of this, and we understand that the image, the vision of those whom we oppose is a vision of a hierarchical society of the worst kind. In opposition to that, you posed two interesting images, two interesting categories. One is equity and the other is chaos. One, is equity so simple as a concept that you can say everybody who goes to the hierarchy believes in equity? Or, how does that work? One is that complication. And second, how do equity and chaos talk to each other?
They are both the same. When you have chaos, equity will sustain. When you have voices, when you have this everybody talking, then we all settle down to something which is even. We also think about giving voices to people who cannot talk much. So that kind of collective idea comes rather than an individualistic idea. Right? We are a very casteist society, and caste is a very, very interesting phenomenon. It has this graded hierarchy. It doesn't have two categories. It has one category or another category or another category or another category. And that's how it is designed so that nobody questions each other. If I question somebody on top, I'm afraid somebody bottom will question me. So I'll sustain that structure. Right? We are like this. So that's how it has sustained. And we are used to this. We don't believe that, we can go and in a village. Many people romanticize village. I'm a complete opposite of that. So in a village, you can clearly see how these hierarchies are manifested, So an occupation is fixed to it so that it keeps reminding you are the lowest. Why are these, even in this day, why are we having these manual scavenging deaths? Are we not able to get science to solve it? We are able to get science to solve it. It can solve it. But it will not be done by the society because that is the job which keeps him reminding that you are the lowest. If you remove these jobs, then that person will start thinking I'm equal. So, caste system has all this structure. So, what I'm trying to fundamentally say is, chaos will bring in equity, where everybody's voice will matter. When Rahul Gandhi was showing that Shiva's photo, in fact, I didn't like it at the first instance, but then when I thought about it, then I understood that represents chaos. So he also said, when you have the chakra view, so now the language and the imagery matters, storytelling matters, right? You don't see it from a religious perspective. Look at that imagery. When you are bringing chakra view, we are bringing Shiv ki Barat. In Shiv ki Barat, it's a Jules, everybody is there. So when everybody is there, where is this idea of hierarchy coming in? I also used to do this when I was in service. When some politician used to come in and then sit in front of me and ask me something and trying to push me, the simple thing I'll do, ask my PA to send whoever is outside inside the room. जब सब आएंगे, power कलास. तो अभी ये काम हमको पार्टी में भी करना है, कांग्रेस में भी अभी क्या कर रहे हैं, हम सबको लेके आ रहे हैं, पावर का क्लास हो रहा है.
All right. So I'm now going to go to something else, which in one of our conversations this afternoon you ended up saying, and I want to kind of contrast that with a particular sentiment in today's talk here, which is the Dalit is the Muslim is the new Dalit.
Yeah.
How do you square that with the argument that, we should not necessarily focus on the Muslim?
No. It's like, this, I'm not saying we should not focus. I'm just saying there is another perspective to this which is not seen. Now, knowing RSS and the caste system, they are only used to that system. Their atrocities also will be like that system only. So what they are trying to do, let's say, what are the ingredients of caste? The first ingredient is divine authority. There will be a divine authority for whatever they do. Second thing is, there will be this idea of pollution. Third thing is this, there will be this ban on marriages, love, affair and everything, so that it propagates. Now look at what they are telling Muslims. They have started telling that जो भी वो Muslim touch कर रहा है उसको touch मत करो, उसके दुकान पे मत लो. This is idea of pollution, right? And ये corona कौन spread किया? Okay, these are all very symbolic. Secondly, love jihad, all these laws, moral policing, everything against love and affair, because that's how casteism also survives, right? Now, when you skip that, what happens in caste system? They teach you a lesson. The village will teach you a lesson by perpetuating violence on you. That's the method of maintaining caste system. And today we see the same thing against Muslims. Unexplainable violence. The whole society will come and bring it over the Dalits, or saying that this is what is our system, right? You will be stopped from coming to your places of worship. You will be stopped from your own models. So I think gradually the atrocities that they perpetuate are also very resembling caste system. And by the way, I keep again telling, caste system is not different from what women go through. Women go through the same system, maybe from their own men, from their own communities. That's why I say this is all interlinked, right? So that's how I think, Muslims are being made the new Dalits, right? So that they can, but for the purpose is different. The purpose is so that you get a Hindu majority to vote for you, which is a fake concept. We have to prove that this is a fake concept. India is the only 420 majoritarianism. We are fake in that majoritarianism also. This has to be explained well, so that this 20 is seen as villains, and then you get that, out of fear you get that 60% vote.
So in spite of the fact that you said that you believe in Periyar and you want to keep it simple, I'm going to try and push it to a moment of trying to deal with some abstraction, which is precisely because of what you just said, which is that India is the only majoritarianism. What we see in Hindutva is the only majoritarianism which is not a real majoritarianism. Yeah. It's a fake 420 majoritarianism. But if for a minute, if you think about the big category of the OBC, the middle castes, and you think about the construction of a majority there, right, with the Dalits and the Muslims outside it, then we have a new way of imagining what they're trying to do. And I really want to ask the question, both at the level of, do you think that's the project that they're trying to do? And simultaneously say, the problem of a democracy is the problem of the minority. In the sense that unless we are able to deal with, any majority can always, through democratic means, overwhelm a minority. So how do you deal with the minority question from within the kind of a notion of democracy? I'm asking both these questions together because I think they're connected.
No, that's right, but it necessarily need not be. When we chose to write a constitution, that's what constitutionalism brings. It doesn't allow a majoritarian sweep. It doesn't allow the voice of the majority to just overcome everything. So the idea of constitutionalism and the idea of democracy is, when it becomes imbibed into constitutionalism, then it doesn't happen. Like even for Dalits, to be very frankly, before the constitution, we were this micro minority, anybody could trample, anybody could do anything inside a village. So many atrocities, and many got converted to Muslims because they couldn't bear this atrocities, went to Christianism, Islam, everything because they couldn't bear these atrocities. Now, when the constitution was written, It was written in such a way that this cannot perpetuate. And it was written down. It was a legal, rational system. It was not a charismatic system. It was a legal, rational system. And that's when, even today, if you see, all the Dalits, they have immense love for Ambedkar. They might come from Mala, Madiga, whatever. But Ambedkar is God for them. Why Ambedkar is God for them? Ambedkar is God for them because he was instrumental in creating that book. Nothing gave me respect, not political parties, no ideologies, but that constitution gave me what I am standing today. Right? So that is why it is absolutely important. And in fact, when the NRC movement started, we thought that should be the icon of our resistance. That book is the icon of our resistance. And in fact, even today, because I handled the 24 elections from a very core point, that was still the icon which we could beat them up. When I took oath also, I had that in my hand. But in my mind, I was beating them up with this. Right? So I see a lot of preamble reading now. I see people who understand that this legal rational system and what we created for ourselves is important for everybody else, everybody. So, fundamentally, I think we have to understand that we have created something, and the destruction of that is going to be in a very problematic situation for everybody. So we have to protect that.
All right, I'm going to hand it over to Kranti and Raja to make sure that the questions from the audience are dealt with. I am done with my questions. I have several more, but I think I've asked too many already.
Yeah, so this is Farhan, and I have two questions. My first question is that, and this I'm asking you this because of your historical context, that, and I'm just putting it out as a claim, that the purpose of state is to essentially concentrate power and perpetuate power in certain ways. Okay, so from your perspective, how do you see pathways out of this? That, it will lead to power. It has led to power during emergency. It has led to power again. And power, in a very oppressive way. So that is my first question. My second question is more of a personal sort from my perspective, that we at Lamakaan have been trying to approach politics through culture, right? But, in the first Progressive Writers Conference, and I have to thank Hasan for reminding me through his book, Premchand posited this question that what is beautiful? And we have to redefine what's beautiful. But that's something that we still grapple today. So when you say that, we have to celebrate through culture, again, my question is, what is that imagination that you're talking about?
Right. Two things. So the second question first, I'm talking about not an idea of this is this. I'm talking about that idea of celebrating. It can be anything. It can be anything. It can be your pluralistic ideas. You can, do what. But the idea of celebrating what we think is important is absolutely essential. And the idea of regimentization is their idea. The contrary to that is the idea of celebration, the idea of voicing out, right? Now, what is beautiful, in my opinion, it is exactly on, in the eyes of the beholder. But in India, we are used to this idea of pluralism. We are used to this idea of, taking everybody along. That's how we have developed. Because, people think that human race are fundamentally, you have animal instinct. I think the other way. Humans are, basically they are cooperative. When altruism comes inside somebody, that's when human race starts. Altruism and doing good and taking everybody along is a basic instinct of a human being. And we need to create that space for those things to come out. Secondly, coming to your first question, how would you promote, how would you tackle that concentration of power? Two things. One is that legal rational system is the antidote to that. Secondly, we need people who can ethically handle power. You can't avoid power being concentrated. But where are the guys or where are the women who can ethically handle it? Right? They have all left politics. Now, when people who can ethically handle power, moving out of that structure is going to bring in people who want to use power for their own things. Right? And intelligently, political parties have designed themselves like that. See, the corrupt always the corrupt always attract the corrupt. Right? Every organization, Lamakaan, it has a culture. Now you see who has come to Lamakaan. You will find most of them are agreeing, most of them are in this mindset. Because Lamakaan brings. Now I pick a political party, I will deliberately make me so like this, you will all run away. Every organization does that. But the way is to move inside and reclaim it. That is the politicization that we need to do now. And in a way, I am thankful to BJP because it has brought in that idea to us. Otherwise, we were smooth sailing in our own lives. I never thought talking about politics was important to my child. I never thought of like that. Now I'm even thinking that I should get inside this. And democracy is a complex project. It is not a simple project. Autocracy is a simple project. We just have to listen to the boss and sleep. But democracy, we have to continuously churn, push. So I think two things, constitutionalism and the idea of getting people who can ethically manage power come into those positions is absolutely important.
Yeah,
Shashi, sorry. Your trigger seemed to be Article 370, right? But when Article 370 was repealed, it was a very popular move. Almost everybody, including Arvind, agreed. Our chief minister here, from across the opposition. So I want to know from you, what is your problem with Article 370? Why was that such an important trigger for you, and why is it such an important thing for democratic India?
Because it was a clear-cut doka. Forget whether it's right or wrong. What is better? It's doka. You can't give dokas in a democracy. There's a way to do things. And secondly, you saw that imagery of the army moving inside, right? Now that imagery is very fascistic imagery. It can tomorrow happen to your houses. It can happen. There was a state called Jammu and Kashmir. It is not there, right? I don't know where it went. Now, it can happen to Andhra Pradesh tomorrow. It can happen to Telangana tomorrow. It can happen to Tamil Nadu tomorrow. It's just a matter of time. So if you get away with it, if we get away with no resistance, and then silence, I told you, is the fuel for fascism. So I just thought that one noise has to come from somewhere. Because I was a sitting collector. If I resign on this and say that you are fascist, which I did also in my letter, my resignation letter, I did it. But, so that is one small bit of resistance. At least it made news in Karnataka that all is not well with this, right? So, I think many such resistance came, and in fact, I see that NRC movement was a much stronger movement. It really put them at the back foot. It really we did lose a lot of lives. I have been, very closely associated. But that movement strength, led by women on the streets, by the people of this country, no political party, no political leader, which means that there is soul in this country, right? Now that again got shown in this Lok Sabha election. Now people ask me, how are you happy? I'm just happy because I have proof of life. This country has soul. It still has proof of life. And then we need to build on it. We need more people to come in it. But in a very, very, very positive way. We cannot afford to be pessimistic. The moment we bring in pessimism into our mindset, they win. We have to be absolutely celebrative. And that's why I keep learning from the tribal culture, the women of this country, how to fight these people.
Hi, I am Shruti.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, hi. So, like in continuation to the questions that they asked about reclaiming our spaces in politics, and also that, what you said about celebrating differences and chaos. So, I want to understand, the fact that you joined Congress and became an MP from Congress. So, how open to, this idea of equity and resistance is Congress, because I see that in Telangana there's a Congress government, and ironically, while Rahul Gandhi keeps talking about Mohabbat ki Dukaan and resisting Adani and all that, here the Chief Minister has signed 4 MOUs with Adani, one of which is a 1,000 crore project of starting drone manufacturing in Telangana. And Adani has also, joined with Israel in, and he's also like supplying drones there. So how open is, how are you able to voice out your resistance inside the party? Because for us, as people who believed in Bharat Jodo Yatra, Bharat Jodo Abhiyan and all that, it becomes very difficult, to defend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I said this is not a fight between two parties. It is a fight even within parties. This fight is within Congress also, between these two mindsets, right? Now, every party has 3 things: ideology, leadership, and organization, right? Now, for all we use this word Congress. Okay. Now, first of all, my ideology is etched in stone. It can't be changed. The constitution is my ideology, my manifesto. So, I cannot blame my ideology, the party's ideology, for whatever people do inside. Secondly, the organization, it's completely gone to whatever in every party, including BJP, right? Now, I said the reason is 70 years of decline of the wrong people coming and the right people moving away does damage to any organization. Today, if you start an organization and then the right people you don't attract, and then you keep attracting the worst ones, what behavior do you explain? It is so. It's a fight between the third thing is that we have Rahul Gandhi, who is a kind of a moral leader. I wouldn't say, in Congress, this idea of leadership has always been the collective. There's no fight which Gandhi and Bose had, and Patel and Gandhi. Everybody had fights. So that space for fight is still in this party. If today I go to DMK today, I can't speak like this. I can't come to Lamakaan without asking permission from anybody. So that space is there in this party. But now the big challenge of moving people in and reclaiming that space has to be done. But I with all humility accept the drawbacks, but it is work in progress and we need everybody to move in.
So my question pertains to the terminologies that we generally see in national medias. Like suppose in national media people say that, particularly the BJP people say that, like, go to Pakistan. It's a common terminology we could see. But if you see the Constitutional Assembly debates, the same terminologies were already used by the congressmen. Like Sardar Patel, who was the advisory committee chairman of minorities. So particularly after the, removal of political representation to minorities, when it was removed, the religious minorities, in reply to the questions raised in the Constitutional Assembly, Sardar Patel said, if you don't want unification, you can go to Pakistan. It was already used. So how do you conceive this idea, which was the terminologies and many things, which is already used in the current context, relating the same to the Constitutional Assembly debates and the constitution making process as such? How do you see being in Congress and being elected from the Congress party? And do you how do you see it? How do you conceive this?
See,
and
again,
one more question, if I can ask.
Yeah.
If it's possible, sorry. The second question pertains to the violence against Muslims. If you could see, support the beef, the mob violence, or the violence after consumption of beef, and the violence is generally, if the societal level, we could see that it is against the lower class people. And if we could inquire about it, I was being part of a couple of fact finding. So I could see that some of my friends were also part of it. So, a trend which I have personally identified is basically they were, the lineage, most of them, I won't say everyone, it comes from a Dalit. It's the lineage to the Dalits. So it's ultimately against the violence against Dalits, even though at a larger context, I mean, the religion-wise, it's Muslims. So how do you see the application of like the Prevention of Atrocities Against Dalits Act to Dalit converts to Muslim?
See, so for your first question, nobody can defend wrongdoings, can we? It'll be atrocious of us to defend something which was wrong. But my question is, do you have the space to do that? Right? In Congress you have. In Congress you have the space to do that. You have the space to say, yes, that was not nice and it was not right. Right? I'm not even going to that instance because I know I'm a big believer in, I don't know about many things. Because, even if I take my own father, I don't know whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. That's the fact. What do I know about Gandhi and Ambedkar and Patel and let's not. So right now, as I see this organization, there is immense space to fight, immense space to say, accept and be humble enough. There is already always a group of people who will not try to, but the basic culture of that, this organization is not that. So I am very happy here because I can still go to a leftist party, wear green, red and move with my comrades. I can wear blue and go to my Dalit friends. I can wear green and go to my Raita Sangha. I can be with other friends. This gives me this absolute space. And it is my duty to reclaim with more amount of friends so that we take it forward. That's how I see it. Secondly, what you asked is a very tactical thing, but I really feel caste is what is driving this country. And that's the reality. And more than that, it is patriarchy. And caste and patriarchy drives this country. The rest are all, just whatever is that concrete. But the crux of it is, if we have to fight atrocities, we cannot. See, in Tamil Nadu, I went and started a workshop called Idea of India, where I did a lot of BJP bashing, right? Everybody was gaga in Tamil Nadu when you do bash BJP. Then I did another workshop called Understanding Caste. Then everybody came and said, sir, why do you have to touch this subject? It is very sensitive. You can't touch this. We are all living like a nice, flock of birds. We don't mingle with, we don't try to, attack the other. All that is gone, sir. All those untouchability and all is gone. We're all living like families. Why do you disturb this? So now I need to explain this, boss. You might be living like a nice family, but that system is giving me immense pain, right? So without fighting that, without fighting patriarchy, how do you fight RSS? You can't fight RSS without doing that. So as Muslims, as Hindus, as Christians, as whatever we are, we need to identify the root of these hierarchies and fight it, no matter how bad it is. It might be politically very wrong for me. Tomorrow I may not get votes of this caste groups, but still that's the fight, right? So I really feel caste and patriarchy is the thing, and we need to create laws. And legal way, I would say laws have only protected me, not any leader, not any Bhashan, not even any religion has protected me. I'm coming from that space of having these atrocities on me, and it is only laws and constitution which has protected me. That much I can very guaranteedly say.
So, Mr. Senthil, my name is Dr. Sibghatul. I'm a physician by training. So, I have one question. You two raised a very pertinent point that silence is not the antidote for what is happening. So, it's a very valid point. But based on my personal experience, 2014 onwards, when I started speaking in, this comes at a personal cost. There is otherization. You are targeted. You are made up. You are cornered basically. There are a lot of voices which are raised against you when you fight. What is happening wrong. So how do we deal with that? So I was sort of raising the voice and speaking what is right. But ultimately it was like I was cornered, and then silence was my answer to that. I kept quiet. So.
Yeah, see, but then the best way to do it is to accept that sacrifices are required in this fight. You can't avoid it. The first Prime Minister of this country, known as a barrister, he spent 9 years in jail. 9 years. 9 years is not a small time, for a well-educated barrister who could have had other things. So I am a product of those sacrifices. Today I am standing here because so many of them left their properties, this, that, went to jail, they have lost lives. And then I rode that wave for 40 years. Now that wave has come down. Now my question is, should I create a wave for my next generation? Do I have that responsibility as a father? That's the primary question. And the only answer which comes to me is yes. I say bring it on. I am ready. You should not run away from it. You should say bring it on. But then, they want you to become angry. They want you to become sad. They want you to become silent. Can you manage that? So if you manage that to the right mindset, by understanding what you're doing, by understanding these are victims who are going to get suffer, they are the guys who are getting targeted. So we have to bring, that's the mindset that we have to develop, but you will have to give sacrifice. I will have to go to jail some point of my time. I am ready for that. Then you will have to also suffer. But what we will be doing is collectively we will be generating a wave for our next generation to move forward. And I don't think it's a choice for us. We have enjoyed that, so we need to.
So I'm going to give the mic back to
Madam is there.
Naeem to take it around. But in the interest of time, let's take about 2 or 3 questions at one shot. And now we're doing very well. People are keeping their questions short. Let's continue to do that and do 3 questions at a time, so that we get at least another 20 in over the rest of the time here.
It was wonderful listening to you. I have friends who are also angry, who are restless. We came here. एक प्रश्न है कि आप जब कांग्रेस में ज्वाइन हो गए, कभी ऐसा फंस गया बोल के ऐसा लगा क्या आपको? क्योंकि ये हम यहाँ पे तेलंगाना में दिस इज ए लेफ्ट अड्डा था यहाँ पे, कभी हम कांग्रेस के साथ रहता बोल के भी हम नहीं सोचे, लेकिन द सर्कमस्टेंसेस एज यू सेड, बट द मॉडल दे आर अडॉप्टिंग, डे टू डे मॉडल्स, वी आर रेस्टलेस अगेन. सो ऐसा कैसा है आपको रिक्लेम करना है वो स्पेस में, लड़ना है, झगड़ा करना है, ठीक है, लेकिन फ्रॉम दैट साइड व्हाट इज दैट inputs from people like you going into the Congress party? Is there any spaces for people like you to organize these issues, structures, reforming those structures?
No, very much. It is very much there. That's the hope I'm giving. I am a good example, right? People think that Congress called for me. No, I went to Congress and said, boss, I am ready to come. Please take me. And what I asked with them was not for some position, but I asked for work. Because I was very clear, 24 ko inko harana hai. That was my single aim. In 21 when I joined Congress, if you ask me why, I will say inko harana hai 24 mein. And I asked for work. And very rarely in a political party, people ask for work. They ask for positions, right? So we need more people who ask for work. And then I worked in Tamil Nadu election. Then the party said, Senthil, go and do the Karnataka election. I went and spent 6 months. And from there, I went to Telangana, Rajasthan, National. I have not gone back to home. My wife, even though she said resign, from that time, she's like, where are you? So, but that space is there. All I would say is we need more people to come in. That space is there inside this party. And we will change this party. Today I'm in front of you, I'm telling you, we will change this party. It will go back to what it was. It will go back to what it was, and not me, we will change it. Today, if you see that war room, we have nobody beyond 35. We have brought in all youngsters from all DU, JNU, everybody. Earlier those gates were not open for anybody. Right? Now, my good friend from Delhi University is sitting and eating a burger with a very big leader. For him, the power is gone. When this happens, you lose that power, right? And with what you will, so you open up the doors to neutralize power. And Congress has always been like that. It has gone to a worst phase and then people will bring it over. So I think I am extremely happy for within 3-4 years, I was in the thick of the things, in many things. So even telling what the narrative of the election should be, how it should be fought. So there is absolute space, but this is not a Congress recruitment or anything. But since you asked my experience, I would say that. But we will collectively change, is my assurance to you.
Hi, sir. Here, if you can see me. Firstly, thank you for being a rather fresh voice in what is considered to be a bureaucratic party generally. The question is that you said you have to reclaim this space through art and culture, right? Art and culture has been increasingly coming under serious consideration from the RSS, and that's something they've realized already, right? See, coastal Karnataka, Telangana, plays, cinema, especially in Telugu Tollywood for the Telugu cinema fans. So that's something they've already realized, and that's something we are realizing right now. So there are two layers to this question. As a congressman and as a person who is involved in some kind of role in Karnataka elections and also in Telangana, what kind of measures is the Congress government or the party essentially taking to make sure that there are institutions, cultural institutions that are created to counter the narrative that is built by the RSS? And out of the party and out of that organization, what are the insights that you have for civil society? Because Lamakaan is great, very valuable, but I think we all can agree that it's not enough. We have to do more. Like that thing will have to spring like mushrooms across the cities and country. So what particular insights would you have for that? And also what are you doing, or if at all, what you want to do within the organization?
So within the party, I would say, we have still not reached that level where we can control everything in the party, right? It's like a very a rusted cycle. We're just oiling it, it still creaks, it needs to move. So that movement is happening, and I can only guarantee in the future, these will be our primary things on which we are going to build. Secondly, we have somehow lost this idea of celebration. See, RSS has been working on this for 50, 60 years. It's not that they are working for the last 5 years, and 60, 70 years they are working. And the second advantage, so many people think that RSS is a very disciplined, BJP is very organized and all. All that is fake. Trust me, it's just Hawa. What is powerful is their message of hate and fear. Today, if I say there is a bomb underneath, not one will run. You will take some 10 people and run. That is the power of hate and fear. It will spread automatically virally. But if you are looking at equity, talking about friendship, brotherhood, you need 5 times the work, right? So their message is first viral because it's fear. Second thing is that they have been working on this for 50 years. Now, we have lost all this. If today you ask anybody who is doing well in your this thing, they will say, my parents are responsible for my wellness, or they'll not even talk about which political situation they are. Half of them don't know what is constitution. Half of them don't know how this political environment was created so that they could come up. We have lost touch with that politics at all. So we have first of all forgotten everything. We are now taking baby steps. But the difference between us and them is that they are absolutely non-creative. They are completely dull. Because have you seen anybody smile? You won't see any RSS fellow smiling. They don't know what it is. On the contrary, we have the goodness in us, and we have the art and culture with us. And within no time, we will overtake them. We just need to move in that side, that's all. Trust me, within no time, we will overtake them. And all you see the kind of movies they make, it's not appealing to them also.
Yeah.
Yeah,
this laughter, right? This is what they are afraid of. This happiness is what they are afraid of. They are very happy if we say Allah boy, but they are not extremely happy because they don't know how to handle this. Yeah.
Yeah, this pertains to the context of the so-called idea of India. So there are two things that I wanted to, which are hopeful actually. One is I have this observation about the 0 states. That's one narrative that needs to be built, because places like Manipur and Tamil Nadu gave them 0. Okay, so that's a huge thing. It's a sort of a thing that there is also a 0 in this country.
Yeah.
So that 0 narrative also needs to be pushed a bit more, that these that you don't represent us.
Yes.
Okay? But that happens in a historical context, in places which have a very localized regional historical idea. Okay? Which breaks the universal Vedic idea. It's not a Hindu idea, it's a
True.
Vedic idea.
True.
Okay, so RSS, BJP. So one of the things that the idea of India needs to, we need to nuance it in such a way that it is not about, it's more about localized histories with intimate religious expressions, which is actually the idea.
Right.
And that breaks all other ideas of this universal Vedic that is, shoved down everybody's throat. So I'm wondering whether there is more need for regional historical contexts and understanding of intimate religious expressions, which are very different from Vedic religious expression.
True.
Whether this needs to be in a narrative, in a way that it can reach out to a larger majority of people.
I absolutely concur with it. That's exactly what I mean. So sometimes we are accused of, I'm not saying everybody, but even when I go to a village and they are calling me to their local temple. So some of our friends from the city, liberals also, कि सेंथिल क्या अभी तुम सॉफ्ट हिंदुत्व हो गए हो हाँ मगर देखो that's from very poor understanding of identity. We have our identities and it still survives. Not all identities have become Vedic. Okay, we still have alcohol and mutton being served to our god. So I think these are some things which we should never run away. These identities are something we should promote. Those dance, those art, those language, those methods. And they are trying to make, Sanskritize many other things, even within the tribal society. Now there's a resistance. They are now resisting that, right? For a long time, they were not resisting. So they moved into many tribal cultures also. Exactly, we need to provide these contexts, these stories. When they bring this huge nationalistic, patriotic movie, we should bring one very, very hyper-local story of a deity, or that's what we should start promoting. That's what I mean by creating chaos. We have to create these 100 identities. Where is this one identity? We are not going to come into your box, right? And I'm very happy these zero states you mentioned. When Tamil Nadu, I always wondered why we didn't learn Hindi, right? I used to feel that, it was not good of our government to say that don't learn Hindi. But now I realize I don't understand anything of this man ki baat, iski baat, uski baat. Half of our people 99% don't understand. So,
Right.
So they can't, how do you control such a country? There is this Sardarjis, they have something in their mind. There is this Tamilians, they do their own stuff. In this Northeast, they do their own stuff. You can't. Keralites, they don't listen to anything. So where can you control all this?
Thank you, sir. I'll try to keep it as short as possible. You have kept two entities. The idea of mindset, the fight between mindset, right? The RSS and non-RSS, to put it as simple as possible. The place where I'm coming from, Malabar, in northern Kerala, my upbringing was not at all in, I never come across RSS and its vast, reach out there, even though Kerala is known to be the state with most number of RSS branches. And I come to institutes outside Kerala, in India, where I see people who are from the community which you have mentioned as well, scheduled caste, mid-caste, even Muslims, pasmandas. I see them realizing that RSS was there within them as a deep-rooted ideology which collates every different chaotic differentials within the society of idea of India, what you have mentioned, and which tries to, through the method of Sanskritization, make a common ground for that. The political party or student organization which I was a part of, Ambedkar movement, Bahujan-Ambedkar movement, oppressed unity and stuff, in Tata Institute, I've seen, my co-members who have come out of their RSS Shaga work by realizing or by reading Ambedkar after they turned the age of 20. They themselves come from Malas or Madigas or Mahad, even Mahad caste, which Ambedkar himself was from. My question would be, you have said to counter this, the idea of India creating chaos, spreading equity, spreading the idea of diversity, non-hierarchical position of anti-oppression is good. But we have seen throughout the years movements like PFI, movements like Simi movements, right? Movements like, or even rather, Dalit Pantherism, which was in like the militant phase of it. And your state itself, which went from 1% to 10%, it shows how deep-rooted this movement is. This RSS ideology or mindset is becoming. And also it said, your own party, if I may, it is said, as said by Sudip Tomandal, journalist in TNM, that RSS works in Kerala, not through BJP, but every one of them are sitting in INC, Indian National Congress. So if there is a chance, it'll burst out, and we have seen that. And to counter that, again coming to that question of countering it, we have a model like BSP, Bahujan Samajwadi Party. Even though they couldn't gather any seat in the state of UP, they have a strong 9% vote share there, still in this 2024 election as well. So coming to that universal, diverse, chaotic, equitable, non-hierarchical, anti-oppression, parliamentarian diversity, which you have promoted and called all of us here, do we see any sort of commonality in all of these different, rather, anti-discriminatory ideas of India?
Yeah, see, they are all good intentions, good ways of fighting and stuff. But this is about the future of Dalit politics, and that's a different topic to be discussed, But I really feel from the history and from what is in the future, Dalit parties which focus on Dalit movements will keep rising. Okay? But at the same time, I don't think they will be able to significantly capture power. They will come, they will decline, they will come back. But that counterpole for ideology is required, right? But at the same time, I also would encourage a lot of Dalits, OBCs, Muslims to come into these mainstream parties also, right? And establish their own ideology embed it inside that party also. And why should you leave a party like Congress? My question is, who are the people who are voting for Congress? It's the Dalits, it's the Adivasis, it's the Muslims, and where is the representation? Why we should not question that party? We cannot just say, हाँ मैं क्वेश्चन करके चला गया, मैं अंदर जाऊंगा, घुसूंगा और मैं पूछूंगा, मुझे दो, मैं रहूंगा उधर, है ना? Why should we leave it? So even I went into Congress with this idea that why should we leave this big party? It's there in every village. It was the independence movement. And why should I not push it? So I think we need pushing from every side, right? But if you are looking at capturing power and ethically using power for bringing an equitable society, then I think we need a large party to do it. Okay, but that's my own view that can be debated. But that's for a different discussion, a longer discussion.
Yeah, just briefly, I agree that the caste and patriarchy are the sources of inequalities. But as you said, when we talk about equality, socialism, all this kind of topics, as you yourself told, idea of India, many people gather. But when we talk about caste atrocities, there will be very few people. So how to handle this? How to go about with your experience?
You have to put that injection inside that. You have to, but see, I'll tell you. I fundamentally believe people are good. That is the base from which I come from. They might have wrong opinions, they might have formed wrong ideas, but the moment they realize that this is not good for me or anybody, they will change. But we have to believe that they are good. Of course, there will be always this 10% cutter who cannot do anything. But leave them aside. There is this 70-60% of people who are in the fence. Let's work with them. And the idea is to call them in. Once you bring them in by something, then they will form their attitude. In psychology, behavior is not only driven by attitudes. Sometimes attitudes are also formed by behaviors. Why does RSS do Shaka? What do they do by Shaka? You bring people into Shaka by showing exercise and all. But once you come into the Shaka, you start forming attitudes which are right-wing. So we need to create such spaces. bring art, culture, everything, bring idea of India, bring people in. Then talk about caste. Lot of things will change. Understanding is change, in my opinion. Once somebody understands something, then that person will change. For that, we need to have a non-judgmental argument or discussion going on. If I push you that you are wrong and I am right, then that's not going anywhere. If we say that let's collectively think about it, then things will change.
Is the most important issue, and you can see the chaos caused by just the simple idea of the caste census. The RSS is responding, it's being discussed everywhere. It's
Supreme Court giving judgments.
It's like there's such a disturbance created by this one simple idea, which is a very, very important idea. That's one thing. Yes, caste is very important. We have ignored it, placing class, as it were. Class and caste can't be distinguished in this country. They're intimately tied. So that's one huge agreement and something we need to push. Secondly, it's are really the keepers of culture in this country. It's simply not recognized how much of narrative, music, visual representations, so all these, the richest possible layer that we have is from the lowest possible caste, that the art of this country really is in that region, and we need to, I don't know quite how this will be done, but that to tap the artistic potential of the Dalits of this country would really be an answer to many of these.
I think the moment we understand this, it's very simple for us to do it, but that understanding is still not come. We are spending a lot of time in anger and spending a lot of time in, not fighting this, but rather worrying about how things are panning. But I think we need to move in and fight. And that fight happens through such things, right? One day we made one organization made an event. They called 25 intercaste marriage couples. They made a stage for them, and they simply made them talk about how good their life is. That's all. And then there was a celebration of intercaste marriage. So you don't need to talk very angrily about things. You can just give the other side of things. So I think there's huge potential for us to fight in terms of celebration. That's the point I'm again and again raising. And it's for the youngsters to move into these celebrations and creating this chaos by bringing ground stories and identities and celebrating them. I think that will put them off. They can't do anything about that. Yeah.
Hello. I'm really elated by your optimism. I have a pessimistic view of the future.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I also had.
Okay. My question to you is, so is the idea of India inherent to Indians? Also, so post BJP coming into power, post 2014, a part of me feels that the idea of India has been imposed on Indians. So this is because I see a lot of school friends who have come out of closets. I see the brazen majoritarianism in the country. So these are the reasons for it. So what's your
So I would be the last guy to use this word, the Indian India. I would be the last guy to use it. But right now, there is a necessity for me to use it because it is being used by the other in a different way. Right. Now I need to take that same weapon and beat. My point is, the idea of India, when they say it comes from this, what do they quote and what do we have in our hands? We have the Constitution. We have the independence movement. We have 70 years of recent history for us to tell what is actually India. If you mean that word, actually, see, nation is an emotion. Nation is not a boundary, right? Nation is actually who you link to. I feel connected to a guy in Kashmir. That's why I resigned my job. And I think we are belonging to the same nation. It doesn't mean that he has to be inside my border. He can be in Pakistan also. That's not a problem. But then nation is an emotion, right? It's a connecting factor. What connects me? What connects me is this brotherhood, is this idea of equity, pluralism and everything. Now I need to tell this to my younger generation who have not heard about Constitution, who have not heard about this independence movement. So we have stopped saying that and we have stopped celebrating that, right? So that is the reason why that narrative has overtaken. So now we have to push this narrative inside, and it's a narrative fight. And it's very, very saddening to see some of our own friends going the other way. But, rather than thinking about it is going that way, we have a clear-cut path to fight this. Let's join that. However slow it is, let's fight it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Hello, sir. Thank you for giving us a broad framework. My question is pertaining to 80-20 politics. When you say that within 80 there are victims around here, but what we see in these elections that the victims which choose not to side with them this time was due to the fear of losing. When it talked the 400 cross changing the constitution, they choose to do away from them because they fear that they will lose their positions, not because of standing with the Muslims and othering. My question is, what framework you advise so that at the community level within the Muslims and the victims on the either side, whether it is under 80 or the under 20, should stand together? Because what we see, communities here are completely separate. They are ghettoized. Muslims live in separate localities and Dalits live in a separate localities. So day-to-day interaction, there is not much of a standing. Even in the political parties, what we see is Congress party only during elections, they do the caste arithmetics. At an organization level, what is Congress doing to make the feeling between the Dalits or the OBC and the Muslims to stand together? And what at a community level we should do this? And the second question is, when you resigned in 2019, at the bureaucratic level, we see now that there are a lot of RSS-linked bureaucrats coming into the power, and they are slowly changing the policies. When you resigned, did you had a chance to make the idea of India, the standing together? At that time, do you had the position to inculcate these ideas within your district where you have worked? And if it was that option, what was the reason for the resign? Thank you very much.
I had that opportunity, but I failed miserably to use it. That's what I'm worried. That's what I'm accepting, and that's true about all of us. We never celebrated. We never did that celebration of pluralism, or that's a drawback that all of us have. At least our generation, whom the Gen Z calls boomer uncles, we have done this problem. I don't know whether you understand their language. But the boomer uncles have created this problem that we fail to celebrate what we should have. But now it's our duty to, kind of correct it. Secondly, the first question that you asked was what kind of framework you have for people to fight, right? That's what you said, right? See, again, this lecture is all about that. I have said what we should not be doing at least, right? Which is clearly what they want. And I feel that creating this kind of pluralistic attack on what they say is going to really take us forward, and in a very good way. There will be sacrifices. In spite of that, there will be sacrifices. We have to give sacrifices. There's nothing without sacrifices. Some of us will go to jail, some of us will go down. But then that's not the point. We are standing here because people have given that. And then it's our duty to move it forward. So I think, we just have to accept and say, bring it on. Let's see.
A huge round of applause for.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for giving this audience at this time. And 24 election, how it was fought, is another talk on another day. We will discuss on how we try to bring in things. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Senthil, and a brief token of appreciation from Lamakaan. Thank you so much. Please make sure that you come back to Hyderabad and Lamakaan all the time. Don't be lost in Delhi. It will be really lovely to have you back. Thank you.